Hi there, I'm Barb Owen of HowToGetCreative.com and welcome to another episode of What Is. What is a rub-on? Have you used rub-ons lately? If not, I bet you're going to think this is fun. A rub-on is kind of part decal, part sticker, part image transfer. It's kind of all those things, and yet it's kind of its own thing. So let's just take a look at some of the kinds of rub-ons that I have in my stash. So here are some of the rub-ons I have, and these may or may not still be available. I don't know, but I just thought I would show them to you. This is a package of alphabet rub-ons. This was from the Paper Studio, and these are white rub-ons, which I don't find those very often. And when I found these, I was so excited about it because I really wanted white rub-ons for a project I was working on, and happened to find them. I'm like, yeah, yay, that was great. And they came, besides that, they came in a nifty little tin. That's bonus. So here's some other ones. They don't all come in black or white. That is pretty common that they're in black. So these even happen to be in color, which is fun. Here's some different ones. This is a whole assortment of rub-ons in themed, towards summer. Sometimes you find them as words. And I have several of those. These are an assortment of Tim Holtz rub-ons. He gives you a ton of rub-ons. Many of them are quite small. They work really well for small areas, things like ATCs and greeting cards and things like that. Again, more words. The words are kind of a fun thing to use them for, especially if you are not so excited about your handwriting. If you can find the right word, a rub-on is kind of a neat way to add words to whatever you're working with. Now, if you are working with a rub-on, if you've not worked with them before, I'll show you right here. They come with a backing sheet attached, or not attached, but sort of semi-attached to the front sheet. So that backing sheet is going to have to come off, which exposes the rub-on underneath, and then you're going to transfer that to your surface. Well, you want that backing sheet to stay on there to protect your rub-on as long as possible. So I usually add staples to hold those together. So you'll see on most of my rub-ons here, you'll see staples around the edges, sometimes even in the middle if the piece is getting smaller, because I cut them apart to use them. And so as the pieces get kind of small and wonky, I carefully put little staples in there to hold things together so I don't lose them. So let's take this one. This rub-on came from this package, the summertime themed package. This is from Mini Mark's wonderful rub-on transfers from American Crafts. So it came from this package. So I've cut it out, and I'm just going to pick it up here. It still has the backing attached to it. And we're going to see if we can get this to work. Now let me tell you, rub-ons I find have a shelf life. And there is a point at which they don't want to work anymore, and if that happens, then you just need to toss them or put them in something you don't care about and get everything off of them that will come off the sheet, and then just move on. Use them as part of an art journal background or something like that. So I have this butterfly. This is an art journal page, and so this is a flip that I've a tip in that I've put in my journal page. I'm just going to pull the backing off of this. So there's the backing. The rub-on is attached to the top layer. Now, because the paper is kind of translucent, I can see through it. And I'm just going to overlap the word down here. And then I'm going to use a popsicle stick. And I'm just going to apply pressure. And the way you get it to transfer is doing exactly what it says, which is rub it with the stick against the surface. Now, things that affect the transfer of the rub-on from the backing, from the sheet to your surface, are the age of the rub-on, the quality of the rub-on, and whatever it's going down over. What is this surface back here? Because sometimes those surfaces just don't want to accept the rub-on for whatever reason. So there are factors that determine your success with rub-ons. So it's one of those things that I find you kind of have to be willing to go with the flow. All right, so let's check it. Do not pull this off all at once. Hang on to this plastic sheet, the top sheet, and start lifting the top sheet, and you can see right here there's a little bit of black still attached right there. So I can just carefully put that back down, and I can rub it a little bit longer and see if I can get that little bit to transfer. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Okay, we got it to go down. And I keep my hand on the top sheet until I know for certain that the transfer of the rub-on has occurred. Once it has, then I'll pull it completely off. But very carefully lift it so you can see whether you've got it all on your background, and we did. Okay, so now I can safely lift this off like so, and it's been fully transferred down to the rub-on is transferred to the background. So this is my sheet. I'm going to turn this over, lay it down, and then burnish it carefully to start with in a circular motion, and that just makes sure that everything gets laid down really smoothly against that surface. So the advantages of using rub-ons: first of all, they're transparent or translucent, and which means you can see through them, so you can see the background coming up through. You can see the background D, you can see the word peeking through, and I love that. And the background colors of ink that I've used are coming through, and I love that. And they go down very, very flat to the surface. So I just think that is a really cool way to use the rub-ons. I just think it's really neat. So that's how that's the premise of the rub-on. Now you can make your own rub-ons as well. So let me set all this aside, and let's see if we can make this happen. Now let me tell you, sometimes rub-ons, this process is a little finicky, so I'm going to grant you that right up front. So let's see if the rub-on mojo is with us today. So this is a package of Grafix, Grafix rub-ons, which is Rub-OnZ. This particular one comes with 4 sheets of the rub-on film and 4 sheets of the adhesive film. So that's what we have going on here. And what I have done is I've taken my mandalas, this is my artwork, and I tested them first of all on a piece of printer paper, just printed them out, so I was sure that I had what I wanted. And then I took the film from the Rub-On's package, and you want to use the Rub-On's, the film, you want to print on the matte side of this. Now, I have to tell you, I found that a little confusing to figure out exactly which side was the matte side. But if you look at it really carefully, you can kind of see it shining in the light there. It's shinier, it really is shinier on one side than the other. And so you want to print on the matte side, and you want to set this to print, depending on your printer. For photo paper, or on mine, I set it for the brochure setting on matte paper and set it at the best printing setting, so it laid down the most ink possible. These work for several different things. These sheets work for writing on them with a felt tip marker. They work for stamping, and they also work for inkjet or laser printers, it says on the package. So there you go. So now I'm going to take the adhesive sheet that comes with it, and just for the purposes of demonstration, I've only cut a small piece of the adhesive just to fit over this one mandala right here. So it's going to fit over this one. Now what you're going to do is you're going to remove, let me tell you about this. There is a learning curve with this product, and there may be other products out there to make your own rub-ons with. This is the only one that I have. And I really like the end result. So I'm okay with having to fiddle around with it. But there is a learning curve with this. So I'm not going to lie. You got to be willing to just take a breath and work calmly and be okay with the result. Okay? All right? Okay. Back to the rub-on. So I've cut a little piece of the sheet. This adhesive sheet actually comes in 8.5 by 11. And so actually on the first sheet of these I put the entire sheet of adhesive on at one time. That's a little bit risky business there, but it worked. And so yeah, you can do it the way you want to. So the first thing you're going to do is there's a piece of white paper, and if you have fingernails it helps. I don't, so it takes me a minute to get it started at a corner here, she says as she struggles. Okay. Now, when you pull this away, you want to make sure that the adhesive stays with the clear plastic. You can see it shining there. Yeah, it's got to stay with this clear sheet on the top. And I'm going to pull this off. You can kind of see it maybe stretching there a little bit along the bottom. You can discard this. Now, you have one shot at putting this down. One shot. You got to get it down right the first time. You cannot pull it up and redo it. If you try to do that, you will not be successful. So put it down on your printed surface, and then I work from the center out with a bone folder, just like so, and I rub that adhesive down to make sure it's made really good contact with the surface of my printed rub-on sheet. Okay, just like so. Now the reason that the first one I did, I put the adhesive over the whole thing is because right here I'm really close to the edge of that one. It saved me getting too close to things and maybe risk losing one of the rub-ons. Okay, so you put this on here and you burnish it real well. Just like so, okay? Now you're going to cut this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is just rough cut. So I just roughly cut it out of my sheet. And then I'm going to take this, because this is my artwork, and I'm going to save this and put it over to the side and be really careful with that. In fact, when I'm through filming, I'm probably just going to put the rest of the adhesive on that. So it's going to be all ready for me to use. Now you want to cut this out, and you want to be picky, really picky about cutting this out. So take your time and cut it out very carefully. If you leave a halo around the edge of your design, that's going to show. So you just have to know that. And honestly, I'm not doing the best job I ever did in my entire life here, but you'll get the idea. Okay, so we have our rub-on created. Now, let me tell you one thing I forgot to tell you earlier, and that is when you print these, whatever your design is that you're going to use, it's going to go down in reverse. So if you're doing anything with words, you're going to have to be okay with the fact that it's that you've printed the words in reverse on your sheet, because it's going to go down upside down. And you'll understand that in a moment. All right, let's find something to put this on. Let me see. Let's just pull out an art journal page here. Okay, so I've got an art journal page right here. So let's see if we can make this work for us, right? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to peel away the shiny surface, the shiny piece. It's really shiny on one side. Can you see that? It's real shiny here. It's very, very shiny. See it reflecting? The other side is not so shiny, and it's kind of milky looking. So you're going to peel away the shiny part. All right, now the adhesive is sticking to the artwork. So carefully pull that back so that you make sure that the adhesive stays with the artwork. You're going to flip it over, okay, turn it over, and decide where you're going to put it. So I'm just going to stick it like right here. So I'm going to just lay it down, just like that. So I've laid it down on my surface, and then I just use a bone folder and just give it a good burnishing with the bone folder. This happens to be a Teflon bone folder, which I love, but you could use a different kind of bone folder if you prefer. So give it a good burnishing just like that. And the instructions encourage you to let it sit a little bit, you know, before you pull off this top surface. However, I'm going to see if I can get it. So I'm going to use the edge of my thumbnail or fingernail here to get it started. And once it releases, there we go. It's going to release totally from the surface. And it releases very easily. And there is the rub-on the surface. So then what I'm going to do is the same thing I did with the other one. I'm just going to burnish over it with that release paper. And just to make sure that it stays on the surface very smoothly and nicely. And there you go. You now have a rub-on. Let's see if I can show it to you right here. So there is our rub-on transferred right down to the surface. Now again, you can see the parts of whatever's below is kind of shadowing through. So you can see it up here as well. And over here in the purple, you can see it shadowing through a little bit. So you have to, that's one of the cool things about the rub-ons, is that whatever you put down, you can see what's coming through beneath it. And I think that's really fun. So let me show you some examples of some of the things that I've done here. And I have a couple of other examples in this journal actually. So we'll take a look at this real quickly. So these are rub-ons. The little mushrooms are rub-ons. These houses, this and this and this and this, those are all rub-ons. Those I stamped using Diane Reevely stamps. So I stamped on the sheet instead of putting it through a printer, and then used those as rub-ons. Now the flowers back here, those flowers that you see peeking through, those were a part of the background. So obviously this wasn't a great choice because it's, you know, obscuring part of my little house. But this was just an experiment to see how it was going to work. But it works really well, and you can see the background coming through the rub-on, which is really nice. Okay, but one thing I want to tell you, you can see that they're very shiny as I tip it in the light. If you want those to be matte, then just paint over it with a coat of matte medium, and then that will make those much more matte in color and in surface. These were stamps. These were inexpensive stamps from the dollar bin at Michael's, and so I stamped those on the sheet and cut them out just exactly the same way that I showed you, and I have 3 more up here on the top. So you can see now as I stamped these, there's some of the ink didn't, you know, wanted to bead up a little bit on the plastic film, but you know, honestly, that doesn't bother me at all. So anyway, I think that's really a fun way to use the transfers, or to use the rub-ons. This is another rubber stamp. This was on a greeting card. So this was just a white card base, and this was a rubber stamp. that I stamped on the film. And I've got one here to show you so you can see how they stamp. So here's how it's stamped. So it actually, that's a very solid image, but it didn't stamp perfectly, but I think it's kind of cool the way that it did stamp. Then when I transferred it, put the Rub-On down on that card base, the card base has kind of a linen texture, and that linen texture shows right through. The embellishment here is just done with a fine line bottle filled with black paint. Here's an example of using the mandalas. So these are all my mandalas that I used. I put down 3 different ones, put a little inking around them, added a word, put a little more embellishment around the side or the edges of the mandalas. Here's another one done on a white. This one is done right down on that linen-like card base, so you can see the texture of the card base coming through. As I tip it, you can see that texture of the card base and the linen kind of effect. This one, I put the mandalas down on white, just a piece of white cardstock first, so they went down very flat, and the white makes it the colors even more intense. And then after I put them down, then I added just a little bit of embellishment around the outside edges. And this is a rub-on right here from one of the Tim Holtz rub-ons, one of a kind, which I thought was really appropriate for the mandala type artwork. Another thing I did with the mandalas, or with the rub-on, this is another one of my mandalas. I applied it to a ceramic mug. Now, I'm not going to say that this is dishwasher proof in any form or fashion. In fact, I don't know how it's going to hold up to hand washing, but you know, I kind of like that sort of thing to put on my desk and put pens and pencils in, you know. So I like having pretty accessories, and what better thing to do than to have it with your own artwork on it, you know? Doesn't that sound like fun? Here's another one that I did. This happens to be the same image as the other one, but you can see what a difference it makes having the white background versus a tan background. So the colors are much more intense on the white. And I put another one on the other side of it. Now these, as the surface is, see, the surface is more, is rounded because it's a mug, you know, it's not perfectly flat. You're going to tend to get more wrinkling and bubbling. I don't know whether you can be able to see it or not, but you're going to get more wrinkling and bubbling in the rub-on as you put it down, but you can probably see a little bit of it right there, just a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, sitting on my desk, that does not bother me one iota. Not at all. I just think that who doesn't want to have their own artwork on their own stuff? You know what I mean? So what I did is I did several sheets of these, and then I put the adhesive sheet on them, and then I just sat down one night and I just cut out a whole bunch of them. And I'll do the same thing with that sheet of the mandalas that I had right there that I was showing you. I'll do the same thing with that. I'll just cut them all out, and then I'll have them all ready to use for whatever I want to use them for. I think they make adorable note cards. I think I love that. I love that. Anyway, yeah, and did you know that we have a Mandala Madness course going on right now where you're going to learn how to make all different kinds of mandalas? If you want to learn how to do that, then check out the link below the video description in the box, and come on over and check us out. That class is starting for the very first session on June 26th, which is a Monday. It's coming up right around the corner. And we'd love to have you join us in that class. It's called Mandala Madness. There's 13 class sessions, 4 bonus class sessions, and at least 6 live show and share sessions. So check it out. There's a video there that will tell you all that you need to know. All right, thanks for joining me today and learning what is a rub-on. So remember to get creative today, because you know it's easy. I'm Barb Owen of HowToGetCreative.com. Come on over and see us. Thanks for watching.